We are sitting in the dark, chained to the floor of a subterranean cavern, watching flickering shadows cast by a fire we cannot see. Our previous lectures tracked the Greek search for reality, from the pre-Socratics' identification of the material cause to Socrates' discovery of abstract being. Plato's allegory of the cave is the most famous passage in the history of Western philosophy, but it is frequently reduced to a simple parable about education or basic moral choice. Reading the text precisely reveals a more complex purpose. It provides a rigorous, topological blueprint of existence. This model must solve a specific structural tension. If ultimate reality is transcendent and separate, we must explain how mundane, physical things possess being without fracturing that unity. To navigate this, we will use the cave to map three metaphysical breakthroughs: the transcendent good, the convertibility of being, and vertical participation. Mastering this specific map reveals the foundational grounding of both human cognition and the existence of the universe. The allegory begins with a violent rupture. A prisoner shatters their chains and climbs a steep, rugged path upward toward a blinding, brilliant light. This ascent follows chronological stages of reality, moving from the two-dimensional shadows to the physical puppets, and finally stepping out into the realm of the forms. At the apex of this intelligible realm sits the sun. In Plato's metaphysical framework, this represents the absolute form of the good. In the physical world, the sun provides the light required for sight and the thermal energy required for biological growth. The form of the good performs the metaphysical analogs of these functions. It grants intelligibility, or truth, to the mind, and literal existence, or being, to the forms themselves. Plato uses the phrase epikeina tes osies, beyond being, to clarify that the good surpasses all other objects in dignity and power. This status makes the good the ultimate, unconditioned source of all reality. In this ontological context, the good is the primary battery powering the existence of the universe. If the good is transcendent and beyond being, we face a connective problem. What is the relationship between the sun and the mundane objects down in the cave? Aristotle critiqued his teacher's model, rejecting the idea of a single, isolated form of the good that existed apart from the world. In the Eudemian Ethics, he observes that we predicate good in entirely different ways depending on what we are talking about. Goodness occurs across distinct categories: in substance, such as a mind; in quality, like justice; and in time, as an opportunity. Aristotle identifies goodness as a transcendental property, meaning it is not restricted to one category, but saturates every boundary of reality. This leads to the principle of convertibility. Being and goodness are the same reality viewed from different perspectives. A thing possesses goodness to the exact extent that it possesses actuality, or being. In this system, evil, or badness, is not a physical substance, but merely a privation, a lack of the theme that a subject ought to have. Goodness is now distributed throughout the cave, rather than being locked outside of it. Goodness functions as the precise structural measure of a thing's reality and ontological completion. Consider two distinct objects, a scale of justice and a geometric statue. Both are recognizably good. This triggers the Parmenidean dilemma. If goodness is a single, indivisible reality at the top, how can multiple, separate things share it without dividing it into pieces? First, we can test if these earthly objects receive the whole of the good. If an object possessed the totality of the good, it would exhaust that source, ceasing to be an earthly object and becoming the ultimate good itself. This outcome destroys the distinct identities of objects in the world, so the option is rejected. Second, we can test if earthly objects merely receive a part of the good. This implies the transcendent good can be chopped into physical fractions like a pie. Because the transcendent good is immaterial, it cannot be spatially divided or broken into parts. The model seemingly shatters. We are left with a logical paradox that appears to isolate the ultimate truth from our physical reality. Aristotle's historical reaction was to dismiss the entire concept of participation as empty talk and poetic metaphor. Without a solution to this dilemma, the universe fractures. There is no logical path connecting the source to the world. A resolution to this paradox is found in the work of 20th-century philosopher Cornelio Fabro, who synthesized the Neoplatonic and Thomistic traditions. Fabro's solution requires replacing the idea of cutting up a form with the concept of metaphysical composition. He calls this vertical participation, the ontological descent of a formal perfection into a dependent participant. This mechanism requires an active perfection, esse or act, and a limiting container, essence or potency. Earthly objects function as hollow capacities or essences, waiting to be actualized. The transcendent source provides the pure act of being that descends to fill these specific capacities. This allows the many to possess the exact same perfection, being simultaneously. These objects remain distinct because their specific essence limits the amount of being they can hold. This creates a relationship of total ontological dependence. If the vertical connection is severed, the object ceases to exist. Vertical participation resolves the dilemma. The many are unified by participating in being, yet stay distinct through their limited essences, leaving the source perfectly whole. Pulling back from the mechanics reveals a fully constructed, functional architecture of the universe. Reality is anchored by a transcendent good, which grants actuality to limited essences via vertical participation. This map clarifies the final phase of Plato's allegory, the philosopher's forced return to the cave. This return represents a profound metaphysical realization. The light of the source remains present, even in the depths. Because this vertical connection is the constant grounding for all degrees of reality, the philosopher now understands that even the dimmest shadows on the wall only exist because they are participating in the light of the good.